I'ma bounce back like a ricochet. I'ma bounce back like a ricochet. I'ma bounce back like a ricochet. I'ma bounce back like a ricochet.
3, 2, 1, and boom. Welcome to the Moose and Voo Sesh, where we are
giving hope in a different dose.
That's right. I'm Blake Moosa, aka the Black Moose, and we have.
And I'm Voo Fam, giving you a loud shout out. And we have a special guest here today.
That's right. It's Daniel Wagner, a very, very good friend of mine. I've known him for the past decade, and I just want to add on. I really appreciate not only you coming here for us to have a chit chat, but your friendship. I really do value it, and just the bits of pockets that you have deposited into me concerning just growing up as a Christian and just getting my moral right. I mean. That you need good men in your life, right?
That's right.
Good men of God, and you are definitely one of them. I do appreciate it.
Yeah. It's funny that too. I was having a conversation with one of the other brothers, and I asked him about you, and he said to me, "Daniel Wagner's like a father to me."
Yeah,
man.
Was he white?
Nah, this guy was Asian, but he actually said that, and. Yeah, man.
No prejudice here, man.
That's just, man. But, man, to be like someone's father, man, they hold you in, high regards, man. And, that's who you are, man.
Yeah. We're going to let them talk.
Yeah. Hey, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Blake. Thank you, Voo, for those kind words. Thanks for having me on the show.
You pay me later. Make sure you pay.
Glad to be here.
So take us to the beginning. How was your birth? I mean, what happened?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. A lot happened, and so I'm regarded as one of the miracle babies, I guess, in Australia. Made medical journals around Australia because I wasn't meant to survive. But what happened was my mother was very ill and rushed to hospital. I was born premature. And I was born with a condition called hyaline membrane disease, which gave me breathing difficulties. On top of that, I had my small bowels were blocked. Now, because of my breathing difficulties, they couldn't operate for 10 days. Mm-hmm. So I was gravely ill, and I was in a humidity crib on pure oxygen.
Yep.
So because I was on pure oxygen, that stunted the blood vessels growing or continuing to form in my eyes. So to this day, I have very poor eyesight because of that.
Yeah.
So one thing led to another. They had a series of operations, eventually went home, but I very quickly developed a condition called portal vein thrombosis, which the portal vein actually carries the blood from your spleen and from your liver back to your heart to get more oxygen, amongst other things. That's the main thing that it does. And so because that was kind of like blocked, which is what portal vein thrombosis is.
Yep.
That caused me to have to develop an enlarged spleen. Now, your spleen is responsible for a number of things, for cleansing the blood, for assisting in cleansing the blood, in storing white blood cells.
Yeah.
And so I've always had issues with blood-related issues because of that, just different complications over the years. So I've never been able to play contact sports or rumble or tumble because of my enlarged spleen. That could very easily rupture. Wow. And that can very easily be fatal, a massive amount of internal bleeding.
Yep. So from birth, your survival rates were against all odds.
They were. So I was not meant to survive. So I recall my mother telling me a story that the first surgeon that operated on me at 10 days old had a policy that he wouldn't operate on a baby that was under a certain weight.
Yep.
Now, I don't know what that weight was. You have to remember this was 50 years ago, giving away my age.
Yeah.
Ah.
So technology back then was very different. Medicine back then was very different to what it is now. Yeah, so he had a policy, he wouldn't operate on a baby under a certain weight. And he walked into the room. Now, I was under that weight because the chances of survival just were almost zero. So he walked into the room, and for some reason, he didn't ask the nurse how much I weighed. He just went in and operated.
Wow.
Wow, man, it's like just stabbing a pin in the dark.
Well, I suppose
Yeah.
this doctor didn't want to have any second thoughts before
Yeah.
because he was adamant on wanting to save your life.
Absolutely.
So he rolled the dice.
Well,
Gamble, man.
He rolled the dice. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, and it paid
Paid
off.
off. It paid off.
Here I am.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
it's amazing. And how did you manage to find out all this info? At what age or when?
Yeah,
and
so
how?
when I was 17 years old, I actually wrote to the hospital.
Yeah.
I'd left home by then, and I was living somewhere else. So I had no information from my family. My family didn't really tell me much what happened. So I wrote to the hospital, and the actual surgeon and pediatrician who looked after me were still there and remembered me very well and wrote me back a very detailed letter, which I still have to this day.
Wow,
That's why I know all this information.
amazing.
Amazing, man. And what are the chances of that? The same surgeon, 17 years later. Nowadays people just move around
Yeah.
they just get shifts from here to there and there. And man, the same surgeon that actually operated on you, man.
He was still there.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's right. How was family life like, and life in school? Did the problems at birth? Growing up, did aside from your inabilities, somewhat, did you have any difficulties in just going about life?
Yeah, I did. So mainly my eyesight.
Okay.
So very, very poor eyesight. Very young age, glasses. And one thing they tried to do was put a patch on my glasses to force one eye to work better.
Okay.
I went to a school that was for visually impaired people. That's where I first started my schooling. So there were blind people there, people who couldn't see very well. That's how my school years started. And that's where I was wearing a patch, always in and out of doctors' surgeries, optometrists, different doctor surgeries and so forth. On top of that, there was continually checking of my spleen and blood tests and so forth. So a lot of visits to the doctors. I do recall that.
I can't even go to the doctors just to get like a simple, normal, just every day. What do you call it? Just a checkup.
A checkup.
Man, I'm even terrified to go just to find out what I have. You know what I mean?
Well, you probably won't get enough time now because we are doing this during the pandemic.
But yeah, man, but yet, you go, as a young child, you go in there, man, and, man, it must have been tough, like frequently visiting the hospital, man.
To me, it was normal.
Yeah.
It became normal.
It became normal. That's
Yeah.
what I grew up with. And that was normal.
Yeah.
We're going to the doctor again. We're going to the optometrist again. I'm getting my eyes checked again. Another
Yeah.
pair of glasses.
Yeah.
Another trip to the hospital.
So go when you went to school, did you experience like getting teased or anything, or
No, not really.
did you have it do you have any brothers and sisters that would help you, or
Oh, well, I've got a mixed family. So
what do you mean by mixed? Tell
All
us
right.
about mixed.
All right.
I'm mixed.
Yeah, Lucius mixed over
I'm mixed
there.
up.
He's he's
mixed up.
yeah.
So I've got an older brother. I've got two older brothers. One died at birth, and I've got an older brother, my second oldest brother, who's still alive today. And then I was born, and my mother had a lot of complications, sort of having children, and so she wanted more children. So she decided to adopt.
Oh.
So she approached the government in Tasmania, which is where we lived, and they decided to adopt an Aboriginal baby. And so my mum tells a story that they did all the paperwork. A few days later, they got a phone call, and the person on the other end of the phone said, "Well, would you consider taking 2 Aborigine babies?"
Wow, 2 for the price of 1.
Wow.
Absolutely. So my mum and my dad both said
Wow.
yes. So there was my brother, there was myself, and these two Aboriginal babies. And so we were all about 1 year apart. So we all grew up together. So to me, that was normal life. This was my family. This is my blood family as far as I was concerned. We just grew up together.
So going to school in that, would the other kids see it as different, or did you ever go through that experience of, you know how kids are like, man. They're monsters, man.
I mean, obviously, even
You
back
know?
then, in
Yeah,
those,
it would have been
those days.
worse because that would have been the 60s, wouldn't it? Like, or
70s.
70s. Sorry. I'm putting up your age there. But in the 70s, the racism would have been more,
Rampant, would it?
Yeah.
Look, my recollections are I don't remember much racism. It was just business as usual.
Yeah.
Now, one contributing factor may be the fact that we lived out in the country.
Okay.
So we lived on a farm. So we went to a large like farming type school.
Yeah.
And, everyone was pretty laid back. You go home and you're shearing the sheep or you're milking the cows or, and it was just a very laid back country feel. So, that was the environment that we lived in. So, as far as racism, I mean, there may have been some, but I don't really recall it.
Plus the fact that you were blind anyway, so you couldn't see any other color.
True.
You couldn't make. You didn't know what color was what anyway. It was the same. They were dark green.
It's all the same to me.
Now, then growing up, living at home, that you do recall having some difficulties, in your teenage years.
Yeah, it actually started before my teenage years. So my parents divorced when I was, I think, maybe 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah.
And my mum quickly remarried again, or rather hooked up with another guy. And then I think a few years later married him, but he kind of moved in.
Yep.
So that caused, I think, a lot of friction in the home.
Yep.
So, again, you're just a kid. You just take it on the chin, and this is what life dishes out to you. It's normal. But looking back,
so I suppose you were sort of treating this episode in your life as the previous things, just with your siblings and regularly going to the doctors and all these things. This is going to be normal. I'm just going to just fit into the routine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you just go with the flow.
Yep.
Yeah.
But then the one thing that kind of stands out is that that this guy's not your dad.
Yeah.
And then as you get older, you start to feel, issues of rejection and resentment.
Yeah.
And then, he was a bit of a violent man. So there were things happening in the home, different forms of abuse that started to take its toll. And on top of that, my oldest brother, he went to live with my dad, who'd since moved interstate. So there was me and my two other siblings left. And so we grew up in a very, I would say, interesting environment. Looking back, my mum tried her best, I guess, but living with this man who had a history of all sorts of things happening with other children and other families, and now moved into our home.
Yep.
That caused a lot of issues, and that one thing led to another, and there started to be arguing and then fighting and physical, beatings and different forms of abuse, and it just escalated from there. So leading into my teen years, I one night we were again fighting, and I feel sorry for my mum. She was there and just yelled at me and just said, "Get out, don't come back," because she had enough.
Enough of you, or
I think had enough of the fighting.
You or the so-called man?
I think just she had enough of the fighting. So
Yeah.
I don't know that she was particularly laying blame to one individual.
Yeah.
She just wasn't happy with the environment that was in the home.
So yeah. Wow.
So this is in the Tasmanian winter, freezing cold. I remember my clothes were torn. I had things thrown at me, so I had things sort of on my clothes stained, and I was wet.
At this stage, how old are you?
I think I was either 14 or 15 years old.
Man, you're a top bloke.
Oh man, man. I understand where you're going from, man.
Yeah, so I left
Man,
home, and my mum said, "Don't come back," and I never did go back.
Wow.
Yeah.
I never went back there to live.
Yeah.
That was when I left.
Yeah, because man, I tell you something, man. I left home at your age as well, you know, and I got into so much mischief, man. Yeah, at 14, 15, man, 15 years old, man. I was arrested with someone in the boot of my trunk, in the boot of my car, man.
At 15.
At 15 years old,
Man.
I was arrested, man. That's man, and I know how it is. I understand how it is, man. To go out there and try to make it on your own on the streets there, and especially man, Tasmania, man. That's crazy. Freezing cold.
Freezing cold. Also out in the
Freezing
country.
cold.
There's this wasn't any city life,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, man.
there's nothing around. It's pitch black. There's no street lights.
Yeah.
So, you know, I remember the night that I did get kicked out. I walked for about an hour into the little country town that was closest,
Yeah.
and went and knocked on a friend's door, who happened to be a minister of a church.
Wow.
So-
wow.
Yeah,
Out of all places.
Yeah.
yeah. Yep.
And knocking at the church door. Wow. What happened then? Like,
Oh
what
well,
came after that?
this is the only place I knew to go. So this is my friend at school. Her dad was a minister of the church, of the local church there.
Yeah.
I knocked on their door. I think it was maybe 10 at night. And, you know, he wasn't home. I actually asked for him. And I think I just instinctively went there because I thought, well, these people will help me. I need help.
Yeah.
I need a roof over my head. I need help. I'm distraught. And so they took me in. I stayed there the night. I stayed there a few nights, actually. And then they had to go away. So they gave me an address of a boys' home just up the road where I could go. And I think because of my pride, I didn't go there. I just sort of went out into the streets and fended for myself.
Wow.
Wow. And that was, and from that moment on, so you didn't take the refuge in the boys' home. Where'd you go from there, man? Like,
I remember I was sleeping in parks.
so
People-
basically, you were homeless.
Yeah,
On the streets, you were homeless.
yep.
Not a cent to your name.
Had
Nothing.
Nothing,
Just the clothes on your back.
pretty much.
Then what happened, man?
I then went to. I was still going to school at the time, and there's a lot of blanks. I think.
Was that because of mind-altering substances?
No,
There's a lot of
no,
blanks
no,
there.
no.
It does
I was one of
actually,
the-
it
It
does.
sounds like a bit.
I was one of the street kids, but I was one of the good street kids.
Okay, okay. So they
It's a different
say,
breed there, right?
there was nothing in Tasmania. That's why.
That's right. I remember I eventually started going to TAFE,
Yeah.
and I was just like living in parks. I remember being taken in by different friends at different times. So I think people started to find out that I didn't have anywhere to live. So I remember different friends at school. Their parents would, hey, come and stay over the night. Come and stay a couple of nights.
But man, to see how your what's inside your head is, you were homeless, you were 15, 16, yet you were still going to school, man. A lot of people these days, a lot of young people these days, once they go homeless, they start doing crime.
Yeah.
They wouldn't think about going to school. They wouldn't think about, the next step for them is prison.
You just basically moved on as if it was normal, but on
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
other side, but on the after hours, after school.
Yeah, well,
you're-
you'll be sleeping at a friend's house. You'll be homeless or something, man. But yeah, man, that's so much of a different.
Well, let's just say you didn't wear your heart on your
contrast.
sleeve.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That makes
man.
sense.
I remember I used to shower at TAFE, the shoplift to eat. TAFE had great showers. I loved the soap.
Woolies
Imperial
had
leather.
great food.
Imperial leather. I remember it to this day. Loved it. Nice hot showers every morning.
We're not being
It's
sponsored by them,
fantastic.
unfortunately.
Yeah. So what led you to Sydney?
Oh, I was basically work. So I was, one thing led to another. I was going to, I got a job, eventually left TAFE, got a job. And then I just saw the lights of the big city, I guess. And I just wanted to move on.
Yeah.
So I had only ever known Tasmania.
Yeah.
So I first went to Brisbane, actually, and I worked there for 6 months. I got a job with the government.
That's amazing. That's amazing. From birth, then the family, then living on the streets, and now moving interstate.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So I remember
from prison to prison.
I
That's about the most interstate I've been doing.
remember in Brisbane, I walked into, they called it, I don't know, some Department of Social Security back then. I guess what you call Centrelink nowadays.
Yeah.
So I went in there looking for a job.
I used to work for Centrelink.
Oh, right. I went in there looking for a job, and there was one job advertised, and it looked like the skill set that I had, some things that I'd done in Tasmania, my first job.
Yeah.
And he's this sort of kid kind of from Tasmania, probably looking a bit rough. And I remember clearly the guy at the counter said, no, this job's not for you. Don't even bother applying for it. So I said, I persuaded him to let me apply for it, and I got it straight away, and it was working for the government. So it was great.
Wow.
My first job.
Awesome.
So I was there for 6 months, then moved down to Sydney.
Cool.
Oh wow! Now you now in Sydney, man. I've known you for a couple of years now, and I wouldn't have picked it. Like first time I met you and your wife, and I was surprised. Your wife's Korean, your wife's Asian.
She sure is.
South Korean.
And what surprises me is I think I asked you this question the other day. Do you speak any Korean? And you said no. And I met your wife. She hardly speaks any English. And I want to see, man, how do you make a relationship like that work? Or first get to the beginning, all right? So I can understand. How did you guys meet? Like two worlds apart, you know what I mean?
2 worlds apart, for sure.
Man.
So we met in church. So it was a bit of a funny situation. So I was going to church, and then her friends brought her to church under the guise of learn English, be exposed to some English preaching, because she was going to a Korean church. And so... Anyway,
She was living in Australia?
Absolutely, yeah. She was living in Australia by then.
So it's like extra curriculum English classes.
Yes, absolutely.
We'll take,
That's cool.
All right,
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely. And so I remember meeting her once or twice, and she was just another person in the crowd. And I actually remember what she wore, and I looked at her and I thought, I don't like those clothes, and I don't like her.
Wow.
So anyway, that was my first impression. So she was wearing all denim.
I hope she's listening to this right now.
She will be. And so a few weeks and months went by, and she would sort of pop in to one service a week because she had her own church. She came with a friend of hers, who was a regular attender of our church. And her friend on a Sunday morning came up to me and said, my friend who's been coming for a while, would you like to go out and have something to eat with us tonight after church? Now, to be polite, I said, no, ask me tonight. But in my head, I'm going, no way. I don't know who this girl is. I knew she couldn't speak very good English. And so anyway, come night service, as soon as the service finishes, she comes up to me, her friend, and says, okay, we're ready to go now. I said, well, actually, I've already eaten and not
so you're
hungry.
putting it off.
Not hungry, and I'll pass. Thanks a lot.
Wow.
And she caused a big ruckus. She just jumped up and down and raised her voice and said, no, but you said you were going to come, and she's here now, and blah, blah, blah. Totally embarrassed me in front of everybody, people were in earshot.
But you deserved it. You know that. You
I'm
deserved
glad
it.
Bus chucking going on.
I'm glad she did it, because what happened was I conceded. I said, okay, I'll go. We'll go out and have something to
Just
eat.
shut up, lady. I'll go now.
That's pretty much what happened. As soon as I said that, I thought, what on earth have I done? Because I certainly was not looking for any relationship.
Yeah.
And so we went out to this little restaurant, conveniently a table for four. And so it was my friend, her boyfriend, and me, and now my wife. And By the end of the night, throughout the night, I'm thinking, what the heck am I doing? This is crazy. And by the end of the night, I thought, oh, what the heck? She's kind of cute. And I said to her, can I have your number? And it just went off. We just hit it off from there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's how it first started.
So it wasn't love at first sight.
No.
There's no such thing as that.
But man, now it's interesting. How did you guys communicate with each other? How did you make things work?
Google Translate.
Yeah, if you can't, Google Translate.
Okay. So absolutely, communication is key in any relationship.
Sign language?
So no, we didn't even do sign language.
Wow.
I think part of the bonding was that we used to both work in the city, and we used to go down and just sit on the steps of Darling Harbour, and she had her little English and Korean dictionary.
Yeah.
And I used to just point out words in there to her and just show her words, and she'd try and pronounce it in English. And then, we could communicate a little bit, but we just had so much fun together.
That's amazing. Just learning to not only know each other, but just learning in general.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
We just enjoyed being in each other's company.
Yeah.
And obviously communication is key, and that did improve over time. We had different people help us over the years. Wow. Like it's in the early days, got translating and so forth, other friends who were fluent in both languages. And, it's presented its challenges for sure over the years, and it's something we have worked through. But one reason that we are able to get on is because we're both going in the same direction in life.
Yeah. And what direction is that, man?
Okay, so I was a Christian, she was a Christian, and we both come from very similar backgrounds. So
that's the bond, right?
100% made all the difference.
Yeah.
We're both traveling in the same direction. Somebody once said that, you marry your best friend, you're just walking together and you just hold hands and keep going. And for us, that's what it was like, because we were going in the same direction in life. She had been raised in a church where it was very similar to the church that I was going to, a Pentecostal church, discipled very well by her pastor, had a good understanding of what it meant to be a Christian wife.
Yeah.
Even though she wasn't a Christian wife, she had learnt what it meant to be that. And part of the Korean
solid foundation.
Yep, solid foundation. Part of the Korean culture is you're very respectful to authority, to leadership, to male leadership, whether that be in the home or anywhere else. So there are some foundational things that were well set in stone, well before we even met, that we just used that as a springboard for our relationship. And I'd learned a few things being single over the years as well. And so we were able to just use that as a foundation and very quickly move forwards together in certain areas of life and where we wanted to be in life and the journey that we were on.
Wow.
Amazing. A man against all odds, from birth to even now being married. That's amazing.
Yeah.
We've got some more conversation coming after this. We're just going to take a little bit of a break. This is the Moose and Vu podcast. Be with you guys soon.
Hey, we're back.
We're back to the Moose and Vu Sesh. Did I say Moose and Vu podcast before?
I don't know what you said.
It's the Moose and Vu Sesh.
Sounds good.
That's going to be the household name. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of our socials, along with your favorite podcast app. We're here with Daniel Wagner, from birth to now being married, a great, a model citizen and a person and a man of influence around him in his workplace and even in the local church is amazing.
And against all odds.
Against all odds.
Against all
That's
Against
it. That
all
is the
odds.
title.
That is him, man.
Yeah, you can take that for free, by the way, Daniel.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, from birth even to now, or even before you became a Christian, what quality in your life can you attribute for you going against all odds in those very episodes in your life that you were talking about?
Oh, if there's one word I would think of, I think it would be tenacity.
Tenacity.
So that's just the drive that you're just going to get something done no matter what, or you're going to go somewhere no matter what. And
Survivor.
Survivor. So, I think that's God makes us all different with different personalities and different traits. And I think one thing that God put in me, and maybe for a reason, God knew what was going to happen, is that tenacity. I mean, I'm just a real bulldog. I'm just going to get it, no matter what's going to happen. And there's a real drive in me. So I think that has kept me going through the tough times and the difficult times. And I'm just thinking, well, I'm gonna push through this, and I'm gonna come out the other side of this, and I'm gonna just keep going. And I'm gonna fight and see what happens. And here I am.
That's amazing. And do you recall maybe an experience in your Christian walk that would attribute to that tenacious characteristic?
Yeah, well, there have been times where, as a Christian, in just any arena in life, really, where people can really hurt you, and it might be a bit of your doing, bit of their doing, but at the end of the day, you just really get hurt. And I think that tenacity, that drive in me to stay the course, keep doing what I'm doing. I believe that what I'm doing in the church, being part of the church, is what God wants for me, and this is what I want to do with my life. But in saying that, I would say I've almost had excuse to walk away from that because of different things that have happened over the years, different hurts and violations. And but there's a tenacity and a drive in me that says, no, I'm going to stay the course. I'm going to run the race, as the Bible would put it. And I'm glad about that, because that's kept me safe, and it's kept me sane, and it's kept me on the right track.
Yeah.
So in answer to your question, probably different times when you've been let down, when you've been hurt, and you've almost been derailed.
Yeah.
And it's that tenacity that will keep you on the track and keep you going.
Yeah.
So it's like you were born a fighter. From the moment you were born, you were fighting for your life.
Absolutely, I was.
You were just constantly fighting.
Absolutely.
That's that's what made you who you are today. Is from that constant battles and battles.
Yep.
And yeah, man, it's
you mentioned church and being in church. What I do look and appreciate and admire with you. I remember just for one thing, going out in the streets and you witnessing to just young men, and even ministering to people in church. Just again, just teenagers, young adults. You can be relatable. You can get down on at their eye level and just speak and minister to them and bring encouragement. Now, obviously, look, I'm not here to offend. There is an age bracket. Okay, well, clearly
you've noticed
these good looks don't.
Yeah, I thought it was younger than you. I thought it was younger than you. I think he's Mac free as
Mac
blunt. I think.
The only Mac I can see here is. But all jokes aside, what can you attribute to, or how are you able to relate to the youth?
It's very simple. You have to be able to put yourself in their shoes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I can't speak for everybody. I can just speak for me. When I look at somebody, I can quite easily gauge where they're at or how they would perceive the current situation.
Did that come from your experiences as being able to have that set of skills? Was that, from years of experience as you were growing up, or where'd that come from?
I don't know if it was experience. I would probably say that's again something maybe that God has put in me, part of my personality.
Yeah.
When God formed me. In the womb, when he made me, the Bible says he knows us even before he formed us in the womb. And God looked down through time and goes, Daniel Wagner, this is the personality I'm going to give him for a purpose and for a task. And that is one of the things that I have in my sort of little toolkit, I guess, is that's part of my personality.
Yeah.
And that plays out in, you mentioned Blake, in the church and ministering to people, that plays out in all walks of life. It's just not in church. At work,
that's
I
right.
can see things from a customer's point of view, which is why I can service that customer.
Yep.
Because I understand where they are coming from.
Mhm.
At a human level, ministering to people on the streets or in the church, I can feel where they're coming from. I can put myself in their shoes, and I get it, what their mindset is, or how they might be perceiving this, or how they might be feeling. I get it, and so I can relate to them.
So it's not a skill, it's actually God given.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's something that you can't further explain.
Yeah.
As with our previous episode, you experiencing and encountering God in that little
Yeah.
prayer room, right?
Yeah.
It's just something that you cannot, further explain. How can you
Yeah,
explain
can't
God?
explain it. Yeah, man. You can't, man.
He explains
can't.
himself. He shows up. All we got to do is just testify and witness because of what we've seen and heard, right?
Yeah, I think there, to add to that, there is obviously something that's been put in you
Yep.
by God, but then there are things that are also refined over the years. And so you mentioned, is it something that you've through your experiences?
Yeah.
So I think it's a bit of both. Probably mainly God set the groundwork. God set that baseline, put certain things in us. Then as we grow and we experience things, we sort of critique and sort of and those skills and we learn things. We become wiser. We become a bit more streetwise and so forth. So it's a bit of experience as well, I would say.
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's right. Yeah. And what are some final words, even during this time? So we're here. We're recording this in the time of the pandemic. The restrictions are being lifted
Slowly. Yeah.
What are some final words? Anything that you would want to say to encourage?
One of my favorite scriptures in the Bible, Jeremiah, for I know the thoughts I have towards you, says the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and a hope. Wow. So that's written in the Bible. There's a lot in that scripture. So what are the two things people are looking for today? They're looking for hope.
Yeah.
They're looking for peace. And so in that scripture, the Bible says that God is going to give you that. That is God's plan for your life. Yeah. So, and he has thoughts of peace towards us, and not evil. So he's a good God. He's a father to us. Yeah. So what I would say to people is that in your journey in life, you need to be connected with God.
Yep.
You need to have relationship with God through Jesus Christ to walk in what God really has for you, to find that hope and that peace. Mm. Now, I can say this not out of just rhetoric. I'm talking from life experience.
Yeah.
Because I am walking in that hope and that peace. Yeah. And I have a living relationship with a living God.
Yes.
And so a message that I would leave with people is that you need to be right with God. You need to have your sins forgiven, and God will give you the hope and the peace that you're looking for in life.
Yeah, that's right. You have fear, panic are going around. You need the future and hope.
Man, I live
absolutely.
I live in so much fear, man, my whole life, man. Yeah, it's absolutely, the levels of fear that I lived through, and now, man, having that peace, man, through Jesus Christ, man, it's an absolute miracle, man.
It is a miracle.
It's an absolute miracle, man. The violence that I've been through, the violence I've seen, and now, man, just seeing things in a different light as well.
Yeah.
And seeing that there is hope in a lot of situations. Man, maybe we don't see it, but sometimes we just got to put our trust there to someone that knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Well,
God for sure knows what he's doing.
So we don't understand it. We don't want to understand it, man. We just leave it with you, man.
Well, I was so glad that, quite a few years ago now, I just said a simple prayer. And I said, God, I'm trusting you with my life.
Yep.
I'm asking you, God, for forgiveness. And God, my life is in your hands. And God just came through, and it was wonderful. And here I am.
Amazing. Against all odds. Well, that's all the time that we have. This is the Moose and Vu podcast, and we have Mr. Against All Odds here, Daniel Wagner. Thank you again so much for sharing your story with us.
Thanks for having me.
For being here, and be sure to subscribe our socials, YouTube channel. Listen to us on your favorite podcast app. Man, can I say it again? We're giving hope in a different dose.
That's
Boom.
us.
Black Moose Vu, Moose and Vu, Sesh, signing out.
I'ma bounce back like a ricochet. I'ma bounce back like a ricochet. I'ma bounce back like a ricochet. I'ma bounce back like a ricochet.